Hello and welcome to Drunk on Tea. Last week I looked at the Deep Cut Studio and Army Painter Speedpaint pens. These pens contain speed paint and are a really quick and easy way to paint a Mini. Although they have some drawbacks, I discussed how for some people they could be a really great tool for people to paint their armies. For the bright colours, I ended up painting this Space Marine in the 2nd edition colours. Although the finished result isn't perfect, for the time taken I'm happy with the result. But this week I'm going to see if I can get a better result from these pens by painting a 2nd edition Gretchin model. Here is the model, which I've given a zenithal prime and highlight. I primed the model black and then dry brushed on some greys up to a white, leaving the darkest areas black and giving a nice transition to a white for the most raised details. This should work well with the speed paints and really bring out the detail on the model. So first, with some shamrock green, I'm going to paint the skin. I'm painting the face, being really careful to only get this paint over the skin. Spillovers can be hard to correct, especially with the zenithal highlight, so I'm trying my hardest to only paint this onto the skin. You can see how the speed paint is working really well over that zenithal. It's really exaggerating the contrast between the darker parts and the lighter parts. So once the whole model is painted, this should work really well and bring out all of the details. With the skin painted, the Gretchin look is already coming out on the model. So next, with some bright red, I'm going to paint the clothing. Once again, I'm being really careful trying to not get this over any other areas. So I'm being really careful around the belt, the skin and the hat, trying to just paint the fabric on this model. Just the texture to the fabric, the zenithal highlight should work really well on this part and give a much better shade and highlight on these areas than if I just used the speed paint alone. With the fabric painted, it's really given some texture to that clothing. Now with some occultist cloak, I'm going to paint the black details. I'm painting the hat, leaving the band and the skull unpainted for now. As this is a far darker colour, I'm being really careful to only paint the areas I want, as this would be very difficult to paint over with a different colour. I'm also catching the boots. This black isn't as dark as some other blacks out there, so I'm hoping the zenithal highlight will really make the recesses darker and giving a much higher contrast with the lighter areas. I'm also catching the belt to the Gretchin. This is an area I wish the tips to the pens were smaller, as this is such a small detail I really don't want to catch the fabric on either side by mistake. And with all of the black painted, the model is really coming together with just a few colours left to apply. If you're enjoying the video, please press like. If you want more videos, press the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And if you'd like to support the channel, please become a member by pressing the join button down below or joining me over on Patreon. So now with some hardened leather, I'm going to paint all over the gun. This brown should give a nice kind of wooden colour to the gun. This is going to sink into all of those recesses of the weapon and should really give a nice look once the paint has dried. I'm being careful around all of the other details on the gun, the areas I'll be painting silver, and just painting the body of the gun. I'm also catching the pouches on the belt. This should give a nice leather look to the pouches. With the brown applied, there's just a few more small details left to pick out. And with some magic blue, I'm going to paint the tabard and the hat strap. I'm painting this bit of fabric here, another area that Zenithal should work really well with the speed paint. I'm carefully picking out the band going around the hat, being careful not to overspill onto the hat itself. With the blue painted, it's added a pop of colour to the Gretchin. So now with some Ancient Honey, the yellow colour in this set, I'm painting the skull on the helmet, being careful to just paint the skull without any overspill. I'm also carefully picking out the buckle on the model as well. And I'm also painting the bangle. With the yellow, it will have that look of the classic 2nd edition gold bangle. And with the yellow or gold details painted, there's just one final paint pen left to apply. And that's with polished silver. I'm going to paint all of the metal details. So I'm painting the spike on the top of his head. The speed paint should give a shaded and highlighted kind of effect to this spike. So I'm making sure I paint all of the sides to the spike. I'm also picking out all of the metal parts to the gun, so the barrel, magazine and this hoop, being careful to avoid painting over the brown and just catching the areas that I want to be silver. And with the metal painted, that is a Gretchin model painted really quickly. This whole thing only took me about 10 minutes to paint, so this is ideal if you have the old 2nd edition starter box sitting around and you want to paint all of your Gretchin models really quick. Because of the size of the pens, I couldn't paint the eyes, which I normally would. Of course, it wouldn't be difficult to come back in with a paintbrush and pick out those eyes. The pens are really good for quickly painting models. They're simple to use and can give some really nice results. However, I don't really see any reason to go over a brush, besides perhaps for children or people who struggle to hold a paintbrush. It will be much better to just use a regular brush and pots of speed paint. These colours are exactly the same as the speed paints you can buy, and then you can just control the size of the brush that you're using. It would make it a lot easier to paint details without fear of painting over other areas, and makes it easier to reach into smaller places. If you want to base coat a load of models really quickly, maybe by the colour or colours you would use, but there's little need for an entire set of these speed paint pens. If you can think of any other uses for these paint pens or anything I've missed, let me know in the comments down below. And also let me know if you've used these and what do you think. So thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like, you can join me over on Patreon, where you can sign up for free and join my painting community. And happy painting!